The Constant, Part 4. It was a good day for Anne. She was awake and she was talking. When I entered the room, her nurse was already giving her some medication. She was laughing at a joke that her nurse had told her. Her laughter was sort of a wheezing sound, but it was music to my ears. When she saw me, her lips curved up into a loop-sided smile. "Hey, Gummy Bear," I said. "Hi." Her voice was soft and barely articulate, but I was used to it. I was much happier that she was having a good day today. On some days, she could barely get out of bed, let alone open her eyes. She would drift in and out of consciousness without anyone knowing. The nurse, Miss May, saw me and smiled. She was a middle-aged lady who had plump and rosy cheeks, and was the kindest person I knew. She was the only person I could trust with my sister, because she had been taking care of her for years. "Hey, Luke, you don't have much time. I've just given her medicine and she'll fall asleep soon," she said. "Is that so? Maybe I can come back later," I suggested. "No," Anne said. We turned to look at her and she looked sad. Her gaze fell on me and she gave me a death glare. Right, she was mad I did not come to see her last night. She was not going to let me go and come back later. She needed to see me at that moment. "No, it's okay. I will not take long," I said. Miss May nodded and left us alone. I came up to sit next to her. She had a bit of color on her cheeks today, which meant that her best friend Rose had come by to do some makeup on her earlier. I was grateful to her for everything that she did for my sister. She remained loyal to her and frequently visited her. "Hey, how are you?" I asked her. She smiled and squeezed my hand. Her grip was strong, as if she was afraid to let me go. She needn't be afraid. I would never leave her. "I'm good. You did not come to see me yesterday," she said. "I'm sorry," I squeezed her hand. "I was at Ryan's house." Her eyebrows went up, and her mouth formed an "oh." I grinned. Her reactions were always extra dramatic. "We're friends again," I said. "More than friends," she wheezed out. I raised my eyebrows. I had no idea what she was on about. He and I were friends. What would make her think that he and I could be more? I shook my head. It was probably the medicine that was starting to work on her. "What do you mean?" I asked her. She could not possibly mean what I thought she meant. "You glow. Love." Her words were becoming more slurred. I abandoned my attempt at trying to defend myself and decided to just get to the point of why I was there. I had run it over in my head and there was no painless way for me to deliver the blow to her. I had to be honest with her and tell her that our family was going to fall apart. I was shattered at the thought and was prepared at the consequences of me telling her. They were all cowards, the bunch of them. They had tasked me with this job because we were very close and I was the last person she would hate or shout at. I really hoped that she was not going to become even sicker with the words that I was going to deliver to her. "Mom and Dad got a divorce." I ripped it off like a band-aid. She just sat there, looking at me with a tranquil face. I was not sure how she was feeling about it. I reached for the panic button so I'd be prepared if anything were to happen to her. "Because of Dad?" she asked. How in the world did she know? "Why would you say that?" I asked her. "He answered calls in here a few times when he thought that I was asleep. I suspected that something was up, but I did not have the facts, so I did not say anything," she said. Well, this was going to be easier to break to her since she had her suspicions about him. "He got married to a woman half his age," I suddenly burst out. I needed her to know everything. We could deal with the consequences later on. Her eyes filled up with tears and she started crying. I got up from my chair and wrapped her in my arms. It was unfair that I had to be the one to wipe the beautiful smile from her face. I wanted to be her hero, not her villain. She shook as she let out her sobs. My dad was such a coward, and we deserved better. How could he break his only daughter's heart? His day of reckoning was coming soon, and he was going to pay dearly for what he did. Soon her cries faded into silence. I checked her and noticed that she was now sleeping. I laid her head softly on the pillow, and she slept. I watched her sleep for a while. She looked so cute, like a baby. I left the room soon after and went to my dad's study. There I found him reading some files. I had no idea where Mom and Goldie had gone, but that did not matter. I had to have a chat with him and reassure him that my sister knew and she was going to be okay. He looked up when he saw me, eyes weary. I sat down from across him and I stared at him. Neither of us said a word for about a minute. "Did you speak to her?" he asked. He did not ask if she was okay. He was so selfish and it was sickening. "She's okay. Thank you for asking." "Yes. She was sad, but she is okay. I left her sleeping," I snapped. "Watch your tone when you speak to me, son. I am still your father," he warned. I bit my tongue but did not speak any further. "Thank you for doing this. You can take today off." Also gave Ryan the day off, he said. My eyes widened at this sudden generosity. There had been a hidden cost there. He rarely gave me off days out of the blue. "Why?" I asked him. I'm not a complete monster. You have been running the company in my place for a while now. From what I hear, you and Ryan are friends again. So I thought you guys could spend the day together, he asked. Thank you, I said as I got up to leave the study. Oh, and son? He suddenly said as my hand touched the doorknob. I turned around to face him. I'm sorry, he said. I looked down. I could not look him in the eyes, for I did not know how I felt about him. On the other hand, he had ruined our family, and on the other one, he was still a caring father, even if he did not show it at times. So I just opened the door and left. I was speechless after all. I went to my room straight away so that I could refresh. I got in the shower and let water pour over me. I let the mixed feelings mingle with the water and get washed down the drain. The last 24 hours had been a roller coaster. I got out of the shower and then I got dressed in my purple shorts and my white sweatshirt. I texted Ryan to let him know that we had the day off. Me, hey loser, fancy a day off? Ryan, for real? I knew that being friends with the boss was going to pay off. So you have been using me. You sadden me. Aw, you know I love you. What gives? How did I earn an off day? My dad is feeling guilty. He gave both of us the day off. What do you want to do? I'm coming there right now. First I want to see Anne, then you will have me all to yourself. I got a thrill as I thought about what we could do today. I also had tingles because he said that he loved me. I do not know why I was freaking out over that. We were friends. Friends loved each other. But that got me thinking of our accidental kiss. I was confused. This guy messed with my head, and I gladly let him. There was no way the feelings I was having was more than what I was letting on, right? So why did I stare at him when he was not looking? Why did I like holding his hand? This was so confusing. I was going to drive myself mad thinking about this. My thoughts were interrupted by the doorbell ringing. I ran out of my room and down the stairs. I opened the door and found him standing there, basket full of flowers in his hands. Wow, thank you. Flowers? I knew that you missed me in those few hours that I was gone, I fake gushed. Oh, please, Drama King. These are for Anne, he smirked. We both chuckled and he handed them to me. He greeted my mother, who was having a manicure done in one of the many private rooms. Private meaning that they were filled with all sorts of stuff that she had an impulse to buy. She had things ranging from clothes to a tea room for her and her friends to dine in. She was currently in one of them, getting pampered by a host of beauticians. I was glad that she was spoiling herself. She really did need it. We did not see my new stepmother, who I assumed had gone out. I had hoped that she stayed wherever she was. We reached Anne's room just as she was waking up. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. Rai, she said. All of us burst out laughing at her silly nickname for him. I had not heard that nickname in ages. Hello, Annabelle, he smirked. She glared at him for the use of her full name. She hated it because we had compared her to the doll when we were younger. It had been a while. Come here, she said. We came close to her and he sat down. He took her hand and she smiled. She once told me that holding people's hands made her feel like she was closer to the real world, when she felt so far and disconnected. I understood how she felt. I could not imagine how it felt to be stuck in a room for such a long time alone. The last time she had been out of the room was 3 months ago. How are you, Anne? He said. Very good. You have not visited for all this time, she said sadly. I know, I'm really sorry, but I will visit more now, he squeezed her hand. We sat with her for a while. We caught up with each other. For a while it was like we were back in the past, when we had been the terrible trio, wreaking havoc wherever we went. It was nice to have that back, even if it was after so many years. Eventually she got tired and we had to leave, to let her rest. Even though she was tired, I was glad to see a sparkle in her eyes. I would do anything to keep her happy. So where do you want to go? I asked him, linking arms with him. How about the park we used to go to when we were kids? We could have a hot dog picnic like the old times, he said. We both grinned, mischievously. We used to buy a lot of hot dogs and have picnics there a long time ago. We would eat until we couldn't take another bite anymore. It had been ages since we had done that. You, my dear friend, are a genius, I said as I gave him a peck on the cheek. I froze right after. I did not even think. I had just done it. He was never going to speak to me again. I expected him to confront me, but he just blushed and looked down. That left me feeling baffled. I continued talking like nothing had happened. When we got to my car, I phoned Sylvia, whose mom owned the hot dog truck, and ordered 50 hot dogs. She was surprised, but she accepted the order. We drove there, listening to the latest music and making small talk. I missed him. I missed how he got me and his dry sense of humor. He was the one person in the world I could talk to about anything that was on my mind, and I was ecstatic. We arrived at the park and went straight to the hot dog stand. As soon as Sylvia saw us, she brought over a box of hot dogs to us. I paid for them and we went to find a spot to sit. We did not have a towel or blanket, so we sat on the bench. "Last man standing will be the champion," he said. "Get ready to get decimated, my friend," I grinned slyly. Then we attacked the hot dogs with vigor. We were unstoppable. We ate hot dog after hot dog. We had grown since we were little, so we could take in more of them. We ate until there was less than 10 left in the box. He suddenly got up and ran in the direction of the toilets. I laughed at him as he ran, as if he was going to trip over his feet. It was clear who had won. As soon as he sat down, I was off to empty my stomach. This was nothing compared to what we had done together in the past. We were always up to the craziest stunts, which was what made us the ultimate duo. "You owe me," I grinned as I sat back down next to him. I was triumphant, and he was not going to forget it anytime soon. "Okay, what do you want? I can give you anything," he sighed, defeated. "I want to know something," I said. "What do you want to know?" he asked, raising one dark brow. "Who's your crush?" I asked. I felt him stiffen beside me. I looked at him and saw that he had gone pale. I had been joking, but his reaction made me really curious. We told each other everything. I had to know what had him so startled. Why do you want to know?" he choked out. "It's simple. You never dated anyone, and I've never seen you with a girl, so I want to know if you have your eye on anyone. That is all," I explained to him. "I don't like girls. I like guys," he said. Somehow, I was not shocked by his confession. "And is there a guy you like?" I pressed on. "Yes, actually, but it doesn't matter. He does not like me," he shrugged. I pitied him. Poor kid looked so crestfallen standing there. "Now why would you think that?" I asked him. He turned to look at me. "Because it's you." Then he kissed me. His kiss was so soft, as if he was scared to hurt me. My mind was confused, but my body was not. It responded to him as if kissing him was the most natural thing in the world. In a way, it was. I had been having conflicting thoughts about him for a long time. Even when I hated him, I sometimes could not help but focus on the light pink of his lips. I had been denying it for the longest time ever, but the floodgates had opened. I knew at that moment I wanted him, for I felt more from kissing him than I did from my ex, Stephanie. I pulled him closer to me and kissed him harder. He groaned into my mouth and tugged at my red hair. We could have carried on kissing, but we had to stop to catch our breaths. We sat there for a moment, looking at each other. He had a look of awe in his eyes, as if he could not believe what had just happened. I could not see myself at that moment, but I was sure I mirrored his expression. "But I thought you were straight," he said. I thought so too. I was convinced. But deep down I knew the truth about myself. I thought I could ignore it, I said to him. I grazed my hand on his cheek. "I pined for you, for a long time, but we hated each other. And I thought that if we kept hating each other, I could stop liking you soon enough," he said. "Wow, seems like we had a lot to talk about," I sighed. And we did. I did not know what the future held for us. We could have blossomed or crashed and burned. But what mattered was that the hole in my soul felt a lot fuller on that day. I felt as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. It was going to be difficult to navigate the whole thing, but that moment with him was immortal. No one could ever take it away from me if they tried. It felt like I was with my constant. To be continued. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.